Okay, let's talk turkey about taxes. But let's get real. Let's get beyond the kabuki dance that's going on in Washington with politicians from both parties repeating well rehearsed lines. Let's talk about economic reality. The argument is over about the corporate tax rate of 21%, whether it should go higher and how much higher. But recognize this: there isn't any major American corporation, including those who do business overseas, who pays that 21% corporate tax rate. In fact, a recent study shows that the Fortune 500 companies, the big muscle in the American economy, they pay an average tax rate of about half that, 11.3%. The second thing to remember is that no matter what corporate America tells you about how heavy its tax burden is, it's been coming down. It's been shrinking over the past 6 decades. Go back to the 1950s, and corporate America paid roughly 30, 32, 33% of the overall tax take for the whole country. And in 2019, the last available tax year, they paid 7%. So it's gone down from 32% to 7%. In 2019, there were 55 major American corporations, including Nike, FedEx, Duke Energy, Archer Daniels Midland, Nucor, a bunch of others, that paid zero federal taxes. In fact, if they had paid by the 21% tax rate, they would have owed the government Uncle Sam $8.5 billion, and instead they got $3.5 billion in tax credits. That's $12 billion deficit that we, the rest of the taxpayers, had to make up. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Go back 2 or 3 decades, and all the major corporations have been playing this game to a fairly well. Apple and Google and Caterpillar Tractors and General Electric and Microsoft and IBM and on and on and on. And the estimate is that they have avoided paying taxes, which if they were paying them regularly on income made in the United States, would have netted the government $100 billion a year. That's $100 billion a year that the rest of us had to make up. And how do they do it? Mostly by mushrooming and growing their overseas operations. Overseas is the key word. Under American tax law, profits made overseas by overseas operations of American corporations are not subject to taxation until or unless the companies bring their profits home to America. And they haven't been doing that. In fact, up until recently, they stashed as much as $2.4 trillion in accumulated profits overseas, often in low tax havens. And then on top of that, the financial wizards of big business in America have come up with various schemes for what they call profit shifting. That is, taking profits generated by inventions made, work done, products produced in America, shifting those profits to their overseas incorporated subsidiaries where the tax rates are much lower. Apple, for example, would come up with new wrinkles for its iPhones or its iPads at its research labs and with its great teams of inventors in Cupertino, California, or somewhere on the West Coast. And then they would shift ownership of the patent for those new wrinkles to low-tax Ireland. So its Irish subsidiary would become the recipient of all the revenues generated by those great American-originated inventions. Caterpillar Tractor, which makes tractors and earth-moving equipment in Illinois and the Midwest, would ship its products overseas to Saudi Arabia, to Latin America, to Asia, whatever. And then on its bills, it would say, by the way, make your payment to our Swiss subsidiary, not to Peoria, Illinois. Switzerland has lower taxes. And then there were 85 American corporations, and you name them, all the big names, Microsoft, General Electric, Merck, Pfizer, Accenture, so on and so forth, claimed they had offices in Bermuda and the Cayman Islands, 2 vacation hideaways and big, huge tax havens. But not many people there for economic activity, right? 85 American corporations claimed they had $800 billion of business and profits in those tax hideaways in 1 year alone. So Joe Biden is coming along and saying, we got to stop this game that's going on. The corporations are not paying their share of taxes in America anymore. One way is to raise their tax rate, but the other way is to impose what Biden has proposed, a 15% minimum tax rate on American corporations, no matter where they make their profits, overseas, at home, tax havens, you name it, whatever it is, pay up 15% on book income, that income figure they like to give the rest of us. Well, You can imagine screams from corporate America, the Business Roundtable, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, National Association of Manufacturers, raise our taxes, you'll kill competitiveness in America, we won't be able to compete globally, we'll lose jobs, you'll lose American growth. Well, that's an argument we've heard before. The idea, as a matter of fact, when they passed, Congress passed the tax cut of 2017 from Donald Trump, was lower our corporate tax rate, and that'll generate investments, jobs, growth, and so forth. It didn't happen. The growth rate for America before the tax cut, the Trump tax cut, for those 2 years was 2.4% a year. And for the 2 years after the tax cut, it was 2.4% a year. No change. Nothing happened. And what's worse is the corporation said, by the way, we'll bring home hundreds of billions of dollars of those overseas profits if you give us a lower tax rate, and we'll spend that money on jobs. Once again, it didn't happen. They brought home, according to the Federal Reserve, they brought home $777 billion of their foreign profits, and the great bulk of that money went not into jobs, not into increased spending on growth in America, but to corporate dividends, to corporate pay levels, and to stock buybacks, which jacks up the value of the corporations, and that money flows to the financial elite, the big owners, the 1% owners of American corporations. In fact, last year, the profits of Apple and Amazon and Facebook and Google and Netflix and all those internet companies were so enormous that America's 650 billionaires added $1 trillion to their personal wealth. $1 trillion went to the top. So lower tax rates translated into greater economic inequality. And what Joe Biden is saying is, let's stop that. Let's fight inequality. Let's impose a worldwide minimum corporate tax rate. Let's get corporations to pay their share. And let's take that money and use it to invest in creating jobs here in America. Not in corporate operations overseas, but here in America. And we'll get growth, and we'll get a better, brighter future. What Biden says, it's honest, it's fair, it's fiscally responsible, and it gives us the money we need to do what we need to do to build back better. If you happen to agree, maybe you ought to let folks in Congress know you think it's a good idea. And thanks.